Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy. The Russell Cosmogony by Walter and Lau Russell. A Home Study Course, Unit 8, Lessons 29, 30, 31, 32. Copyrighted 1951 by Walter and Lau Russell. No part of this manuscript can be printed in any form without permission from the author, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages in a review to be printed in a magazine or newspaper. Issued by the Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, S.C. D. Lesson number 29. The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Copyrighted 1951 by Walter and Lau Russell. The Spiritual Significance of Electric Polarity. We have progressed to a point where you can now comprehend why God divided his thinking into pairs of opposite electrical mates to make two polarized units of every creating thing, whether mineral, vegetable or animal. What was God's purpose in creating your polarized body? God's only purpose in creating his whole universe of bodies is to express his one idea of love, as manifested by him in giving and re-giving by every opposite mate in nature to every other opposite mate. This fact we must thoroughly understand. If we thoroughly understand it, we can then know that the solution of all of life's problems lies in our knowledge of how to manifest that love principle. That is all that life is for. We have just begun to learn its lessons. When we do understand it, we will then know what matter and motion is and why God created matter and motion. We will then understand that love is LAW, the one and only law. 481. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 482. In God's universe, the one divine law. We will also realize that love is power, the only power in all the universe. With that knowledge we can use that power and command that law to work with us, for we will then know that God's law is our law. Each man will knowingly command his OWN divine law to obey his omnipotent will. Each man who thus commands his law to work with him will be able to authoritatively say, I and my Father are one. You are studying the Divine Iliad message to acquire this omniscience. To the extent that you do acquire it, you will have transformed yourself from one who is his own victim of self-inflicted punishment, for lack of that knowledge, to one who has found its mighty power in its acquisition. Let us, therefore, look deeply into this idea of God's purpose of making two opposite kinds of bodies of all things of his creating. Oneness, unity, balance. God is one. God created countless pairs of oppositely conditioned ones in order that they should manifest oneness through interchange of giving and re-giving to void their seeming separateness. God is unity. God created countless disunited pairs of seemingly separate units in order that each disunited one of each seemingly separate pair could manifest its unity with the whole by equal interchange with the whole. Pairs of seemingly separated and disunited man units will fulfill God's idea and purpose when these countless unit pairs know each other as the one universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 483. Eternal being beyond even that idea conveyed by the expression of universal brotherhood of all men. When man finally knows of his unity with God as the one universal being, the one presence in all this universe, he will have progressed beyond the idea of the brotherhood of the many, for the many will have become voided in their unity as one. God is balance. God divided his idea of balance in his self by creating pairs of unbalanced conditions, each of which is the opposite of the other. He commanded each of these unbalanced pairs to seek balance through each other by interchanging their unbalanced conditions. That command is God's one inviolate law. It is God's only law. It is the law of balance, giving and giving. It is the law of love. Your whole purpose in life is to comprehend that law. You cannot fulfill God's law unless you do comprehend it. You cannot comprehend it unless you desire to comprehend it. You cannot fulfill your desire to command the law to work with you until you manifest your desire through action. There is no other way for you to command God's law to fulfill your desire than through the action of giving. The only lesson of your life is to learn how to give. That is all. There is no other. You do not have to learn how to take, for you cannot take without breaching God's law. Nor can you receive that which you have not given, therefore have no thought of receiving. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 484. Meditate upon the following thoughts until you know them. You have always been as God has always been. God created your body around the eternal you as one of a divided pair of bodies. That which you think of as your body is but one unbalanced half of one balanced whole. Neither half is, nor can be the whole. God gave you a visible body to manifest the eternal you in the visible universe. You desired to have a body to manifest yourself. Your desire was God's desire. God desired that you should have a body to manifest His self. Yourself and God's self are one. In creating your body, God created seeming separateness, seeming disunity and seeming unbalance. God divided all bodies into pairs of oppositely unbalanced conditions. To one half of each pair God gave one condition. To the other half He gave the other condition. Every idea in God's universe is manifested in matter by two oppositely conditioned bodies which perpetually interchange to simulate each idea by interchanging motion. God separated all of His divided pairs of divided bodies by equators. Equators are invisible planes of balance which divide all pairs of oppositely unbalanced conditions. One half of that which your body needs for its continuance or for its extension or for its reproduction is not in your body. It is in the other half of your body. It is on the other side of the equator which divides your body into two opposite conditions. It is in the invisible half of you. Conversely, one half of that which the other half of your body needs is in universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 485. Your body. God gave to the other half of you what you need, and He gave to you what the other half needs. Without that other half, which is the other side of your equator which separates you from your oppositely polarized other half, you could no more continue your bodily existence than one cell of a storage battery could continue to operate without the other. All thoughts and all bodies are to what we have said about the creation of material bodies in pairs, also applies to thought bodies, for they also are created in pairs. Your mind-soul is one. Your soul is you. Your body is not you. From the mind-soul of the eternal you, your electric thinking extends as two. Your electric thinking creates thought bodies formed in the image of mind conceiving. Thought bodies are two concepts of your mind center the two pulsations of your electric thinking as a still fulcrum centers a moving lever. The moving lever is two, extending from one. Your eternal soul is the still fulcrum of you. Your thinking is the lever of motion which creates pulsing thought bodies, and your physical action is the lever which creates pulsing material bodies. Your power is in your soul. Your ability to express that power is dependent upon the measure of your awareness of your soul as the fulcrum of your body, or of the universal God soul as the fulcrum of God's universal body. And it is also dependent upon the measure of your awareness of the oneness of your soul with the universal soul. How can I burn these thoughts into the comprehension of your very soul? Universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy page 486. To carry them further, without pausing to make them a part of your conscious knowing, would but confuse you. They must be carried further, else you will never comprehend what happens to your body after death in that interval between death and rebirth, nor will you comprehend how you acquired a body or why you cannot keep it, nor will you ever dynamically know what your soul is in relation to your mind, and to your body. Let us pause, therefore, and exemplify these thoughts objectively. Give heed to these new thoughts. 1. First, we must revise our concepts concerning the soul. It is commonly believed that only humans have souls. It is also commonly believed that each individual has an individual soul which is as separate and apart from all other souls as people are separate and apart from each other. This is not a true concept. There is but one soul as there is but one mind. The soul is the desire quality in mind which causes mind to want to create bodies to manifest divine idea. But mind creates bodies by extending them from still centers. The still center of every body is its soul. It is the light of God, its creator. Mind is creating bodies everywhere. There is no point anywhere in the universal equilibrium which underlies all motion where a body is not being created, no matter how ultramicroscopic or macrocosmic the body is. Every point in the universal equilibrium is a point of desire which is the seed for the extension of bodies. Within every electron, atom, sun or galaxy is a still center from which universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy page 487. The desire to extend a body causes the extension of a body. That still center of every body is its soul. It is where God, the Creator, takes his seat to unfold and refold that particular body in accordance with the one law he has made, by means of which he governs his divided universe of polarized electric opposites. Just as God is everywhere, so, likewise, is soul everywhere. Man's one soul, the soul of man, is the still center of his consciousness. That is the point of knowing from which desire to create his body extends. That is the seat of his mind from which his thinking extends in two polarized directions. To better visualize this principle, refer back to figure 15 on page 171. Also refer to every diagram and paragraph which explains the Divine Trinity. The soul is the desire of mind to manifest idea of mind. The soul manifests mind idea and image form by seemingly dividing and extending the light of mind through polarized opposites. The two electric workers of God's thinking wind these two divided lights into dense bodies surrounded by gaseous counterparts. They then unwind dense bodies for redistribution into space in order to repeat that process over and over again forever. Man's many souls. Man's body is not one. It is composed of countless millions, or even billions of little spheres which are insulated from each other by space surrounding each one, just as the sons of heaven are likewise insulated from universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy page 488 each other. Each visible sphere is one half of a body. Its surrounding cubic wave field of space is the other half. Every one of these purposeful little spherical particles are centered by the still light of God. That still light is the soul of each of the millions of bodies which form the body of a man. We will necessarily have to await a further expansion of this idea until later, but for the present we will briefly say that every visible body has its invisible, but equal measure of electric potential in space. Space is not indefinite or infinite in measure, nor is space formless. Space is the other measured half of every body which floats in it, and that other half is not only measured but is bounded by a wave field of definite form. God makes spherical bodies of visible dense matter surrounded by cubic bodies of invisible expanded matter. God then compresses his cube spheres into many forms consisting of many cube spheres. There are no other forms in nature than these cube spheres and sections of them. All spheroidal forms are spheres in the making and unmaking, while invisible forms in space surrounding the visible spheres which center them, are cubes and cube sections. All crystal forms in the chemical elements procure their visible forms from their invisible counterparts in space. That is all we can say of this subject at this time. We will expand this idea later when we are ready for it. All bodies are two. We must revise our concepts concerning bodies. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 489-__, M-Sagio. It is commonly believed by every man that his body is that organism which is contained within his skin. That is a totally wrong conception and must be revised. Your actual body reaches a long way under the earth, and very high into the heavens above the earth. You are seemingly separated from that other visible and invisible part of your body, but actually you are not, for what you think of as your body could not survive 5 minutes if severed from its extensions from earth and space. You are separated from your extensions by equators only. Half of what your visible body needs is on the other side of the equator, which divides your electropositive visible body from its electronegative invisible mate. Conversely, half of what your invisible body needs is within you. It is absolutely imperative that each half of your body constantly give to the other half, and it is as certain that each giving shall be re-given as that night will be followed by day. What you think of as your body is a patterned extension of the earth, to which you are inescapably rooted, and it is also an extension of space surrounding the earth, within which you are temporarily compressed. It is merely a small nucleus of a very extended dual body which is hundreds, if not thousands of times larger than your visible body. Figure 62 exemplifies the dual electric wave field which encloses every body pair. The low electric potential which surrounds every visible body is equal to that of its dense center but unequal in volume, the outer decentrated half being thousands of times greater in volume than the concentrated inner half. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 490. The invisible half of every body is thousands of times greater than its visible half. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 491, Figure 63. Figure 63. It is the potential center of such points centers. Figure 65. Nature of gravitation to seek the Higgs-natively charging bodies. We call of gravity. Figure 64. Potential bodies. It is the areas and nature of radiation to seek the low space surrounding negative when Y discharging. Figure 65. All bodies charging, are simultaneously charging and every body of matter is a continually working expansion compression pump which is forever creating and dissolving solids. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 492. Every pumping body is spherical or spheroidal. Every radius of every pumping mass is a piston which pulses with the universal heartbeats to integrate and disintegrate matter. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 493, Figure 68. Nature creates bodies bipolar as an equilibrium condition. Nature destroys bodies by depolarizing them. Nature repeats bodies by voiding their polarity through interchange between their opposite conditions. All bodies are infinitely extended. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 494. Figure 63 diagrams the inbreathing of the central half from its outer mate, which generates it by pumping the low potential of the outer half into the inner half to increase the potential of the inner half. This inbreathing of inner bodies from outer bodies is what is called gravitation. Gravitation is the compressive half of the electric cycle which pulls inward from within to manifest life. It is the charging half of the electric cycle. It charges the inner body by discharging the outer one. Figure 64 is the reverse of Figure 63. It is the outbreathing of the inner body toward the outer half which is called radiation. Radiation is the expansive half of the electric cycle which thrusts outward from within to manifest death. It is the discharging half of the electric cycle. It charges the outer body by discharging the inner one. Figure 65 illustrates the sequential inbreathing and outbreathing which is continuous in every body in the universe, whether it be an electron or a giant nebula. This sequence is the heartbeat of God's body. Figure 66 illustrates the interchange between all dense and spatial bodies. The two black gravitating spiral lanes are generative light which winds up its visible center by compressing it. It pumps inward from within, radially, for 1/2 of each heartbeat. Conversely, the two light radiating lanes are degenerative light which unwinds its visible body by expanding it into space until it becomes invisible. It pumps outward from within, radially, for the other half of each heartbeat. During 1/2 of a man's life cycle, his power to generate his inner body. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 495. And too strong your life is greater than the power of his outer body to degenerate it toward so-called death. During the other half the power of his outer body increases until the inner body disappears from within the range of man's sensing. It still exists, however, for there is no death. All expressions of God's idea, as manifested in bodies, are continuous. Bodies never cease to be, even though they disappear. Even though they pass beyond the range of man's sensing, they do not pass beyond the range of his knowing. Also that point of desire which is in the soul of idea will always repeat the dual body of that idea when the conditions of environment make it possible for the two electric workers to reborn the body forms of the idea. Figure 67 graphically illustrates the pulsing heartbeat of God's body as 1/2 of the electric cycle creates the visible half of a body and the other half of it creates the invisible half by each interchanging with each other simultaneously and sequentially. Figure 68 illustrates how two oppositely polarized bodies repeat their patterns through each other by voiding their dividing equators and find balance in each other through uniting their respective wave fields into one inclusive one. Misconceptions regarding bodies: what you think of as your living body is that part of you which you can see when you look into a mirror. Your senses tell your senses that your body is alive. They tell you that your heart is beating, and that all organs of your body are functioning to make of your body a living organic thing. God has given your senses the power of perceiving only a small range of universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 496 the whole circle of effect. That small range would not extend over 20 degrees of the whole 360, which would allow you to see effects that are now invisible if you had but another 10 degrees. The human race is gradually increasing its range. When we discover that increase in a few people out of the many, we call it extrasensory perception. We will talk about it later. Your present range of senses tell you, however, that your body is absolutely dependent upon the earth and its surrounding space, but you do not realize your identity with that part of your body which is outside of you. That which is your body is also the earth. Your body was extruded from earth, pushed out from it into space. Your body radiated from the earth, but earth's gravity chains you to earth. The body which earth gave to you, you must re-give to earth. Conversely, earth was compressed from space. Your body, therefore, is an extension of both earth and space. Equators separate you from both, but that part of your body which is on the other side of those equators must be continually extended to you, else you cannot survive. You would die of starvation if your roots of earth did not constantly extend the nourishment of earth's soil to replenish your body. Conversely, the soil of earth would lose its ability to give life to you if you did not re-give to it equally. You were not born from earth at some time now past. You are continually and perpetually being reborn from earth, which gives you life in exchange for your death. Earth needs your death that you give to it, just as you need the life which it gives to you. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 497. Nor was your first breath which your counterpart in space gave to you that which alone gave you life. During your whole life that other polarized half of you gave life to you in order that you may live. You, in turn, give your death to your counterpart in space in order that it may live. Conclusion: when we give anything to anybody, we are prone to think that we are that much poorer because we have less than we had. That which we have given leaves us minus just so much. Just so long as we think that way, we have not learned the great lesson of nature which enriches itself only by giving. When the heavens withhold rains from earth to give it life, the resultant desert has naught to give to the heavens, so both are impoverished. But when a man gives to mankind of his self, asking naught, nor having an expectant motive for giving, such a man is enriched by that which he has given, for the law of love, as manifested in balanced interchange, is as absolute as that light shown into a mirror will re-give equal, of that which has been extended to it. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, S.C. D. Lesson number 30. The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia _E00LE0EL0EE4. Copyrighted 1951 by Walter and Lau Russell. Reincarnation. We now approach the most difficult of all subjects, the idea of reincarnation. Reincarnation is difficult to explain to people of this age because the concepts of this age in the unfolding of man are still too primitive for anyone to comprehend many facts of nature which are beyond their limited range of sensing. That extremely limited range of sensing of this early stage of man's unfolding is his great handicap to comprehension of this principle. When people say casually to me, "Do you believe in reincarnation? Please tell me about it," I shudder at the task, for it is impossible to explain reincarnation to anybody whose concepts of bodies, and life and death of bodies, are what people of the present age think they are. Many of the previous lessons were written to build new concepts of nature's workings which would make this most obvious fact of nature understandable. In these lessons we made it clear that all bodies, whether thought bodies, or material bodies such as sounds, animals, suns or galaxies, are but light waves. The lesson previous to this was devoted entirely to the 499 Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy page 500 Kali equals almo, a purpose of building new concepts, such as the duality of bodies, as a basis for a better understanding of the as yet unknown facts of reincarnation. These new concepts of the polarization of bodies into concentrated and decentrated, visible and invisible pairs which interchange their polarity forever in repetitive cycles are first steps in peering behind the scenes of God's workshop where the making of bodies takes place. It will be necessary to describe how God builds visible bodies by transforming them from their invisible counterparts, and then reverses that process so that visible ones again become invisible. Science has suspected that such a process exists, but has not yet become able to solve it. Science merely says, matter seemingly emerges from space and is then swallowed up by space, but it may be that man will never be able to solve this great mystery of the creative process of matter. We will slowly build up a complete explanation of this process of nature. The illusion of disappearance and reappearance. 1. Consider this thought. Place a glass of water on your garden wall some sunny morning. When you go to see it in the afternoon, that body of water is not there. You do not say that the water is dead. You say it has disappeared, and you know why it has disappeared, and where it is. You know that it has but changed its polarity from its positive dense condition to its expanded negative condition. That visible body of water which occupied 6 cubic inches has evaporated into a large body of invisible vapors which now occupy a space of 6,000 cubic inches. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy page 501 underscore 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 dash dash. You know that even though that body of water has disappeared, it does not cease to exist. You know that it still has a body, not the same kind of body, not one which you could drink or wash your hands in, but still it has a body. It might even become visible as a cloud, and disappear again. You never think of it as having ceased to be, for you know it will come again when cold air contracts it to its dense concentrative polar condition. When rain fills that empty cup, you can say that it has repeated its condition as water. Then when it again becomes vapor, you can again say that it has repeated its condition as vapor. If you totally disregard the thought of repetition of its two opposite conditions and substitute the thought of the eternal continuity of that body of water which forever appears within the range of your vision, then disappears beyond that range for an interval before it again reappears, you will have taken the first simple step toward a comprehension of the sequential interchange of visible bodies with their invisible counterparts. That realization is what I must now impress upon you until you fully realize that each interval of time between the disappearance and reappearance of any body is not a discontinuance of the body, it is merely a blackout of your senses. When things disappear from your vision, or your hearing, they have not ceased to be. They are not dead. And when they reappear within your vision or hearing, they are not reborn into life. They have but again come within your range of vision or hearing. Together with the above realization, you must fix in your consciousness that the soul of that disappeared body still is, and in that soul is the same universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy page 502 desire that created the disappeared body. That desire of the soul to unfold the form of an idea will cause it to reappear, to again unfold, forever and forever as a continuity which is forever changing, but never ceases. Changing sound bodies, we must exemplify this thought to make it a part of our knowing. Consider, therefore, a body of sound you create by talking. When the sound ceases, it is not dead. You no longer hear it, but if there is a cliff sidoti up the valley, and you have talked loudly enough, your voice will again be heard as it condenses into small waves by impacting against the cliff. It is the same voice, and the same sound continued out into its spatial counterpart. It is still living. It is a continuity of itself. It is the same sound extended from the point of desire where its body form was created. We call it an echo. It is just as appropriate to call it a mirror, for sound waves are light which reflect light, the illusion of repetition. Consider this same sound again brought into appearance 3,000 miles away by the condenser of your radio, which shortens the length and waves to the dimensions created by you when you spoke them. Again we say they were not dead when they disappeared 3,000 miles away from their birth. They but disappeared from the range within which your senses were able to perceive them. No matter where upon this earth you set your condenser to restore the dimensions of those sound bodies to their original wavelengths and frequencies, you will hear those sounds again in their original pattern and identity. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 503 If Churchill spoke them at their point of desire, Churchill's identity was reincarnated or reborn or repeated wherever they newly appeared. It was the same voice, same pattern, same characteristics in every respect wherever recondensed into reappearance. Continuity. If these facts are true to natural law, we are not correct when we use the terms death, birth, disappearance, repetition, reappearance, or reincarnation. How can we be correct in the use of such terms when we know that there is a continuity of such bodies and that nothing has changed in them but their dimensions and their polarity? Likewise, if their recognized identity and pattern was that of Churchill, who spoke them, or Paderewski, who played them, or Caruso, who sang them, why, then, should we question whether or no we lose our individuality when that body which we call John Jones becomes recondensed into its original pattern and dimensions after having disappeared beyond the range of our vision by the natural process of expansion and its consequent change of wavelengths and frequencies? All bodies are the result of desire of mind to create bodies. Desire of mind is eternal, therefore all bodies are eternal in their continuity. We should not even say that they are eternally repetitive, for repetition is suggestive of discontinuous intervals between each repetition. When night comes we no longer see the distant mountain. Our range of vision does not permit us to see through the dark. In the morning the mountain reappears within our range of vision, but we do not think of it as another universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 504 Mountain, reborn, nor do we think of it as a repetition. We think of it as a continuity, for the mountain has never ceased to be. We could not see it because the short light waves which permit us to see it in daytime reverse their polarity. They become so long that their slow vibrations shut out all objects from our eyes which respond only to short light waves of high frequencies. In other words, the light which our eyes respond to has reversed its polarity beyond our range of sensing. If we desire to know what happens to our bodies after death, and if we wish to thoroughly understand the illusion of reincarnation, we must first thoroughly understand what we mean by the term reversal of polarity, and we must also know what we mean by the term cycles. We explain polarity reversal, and cycles postulate no. 1. All bodies are continuous. They never cease. They merely reverse their polarity twice in every cycle of their eternal journey within and beyond the range of our sensing. Postulate no. Z. All bodies are expressed in cycles. A cycle is a continuous two-way spiral journey from the expanded condition of a body to its opposite compressed condition, and back again to its expanded condition. A most familiar example of a cycle is day and night. Each is the opposite half of the other. Postulate No. 3. There are 2 points of rest in every cycle. At each of these 2 rest points each opposite condition reverses and becomes the other. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 505. Day is a contraction of light waves into visibility. Night is a reversal of the cycle. Light waves expand and become invisible. In other words, a cycle is that journey in every wave which the crest of the wave takes to become its trough, and back again to its crest. A cycle of thought is a concentrated thought body followed by its decentration into indefinite form. It is the action and reaction piston stroke of the universal pump which is the heartbeat of God's body. It is a complete in-breathing out-breathing of every body in the universe which eternally breathes in cycles of changing wave dimensions. It is these breathing cycles which cause bodies to appear within our range of vision, then disappear beyond that range. It is the point of conception preceding the birth of a man, through his life to maturity, then back to the same point of conception through his death. We think of life as beginning at birth and ending in death. We have not yet learned to think of it as a continuity, such as the cycle of a piston stroke in an expansion-contraction engine, yet one is as continuous as the other. At middle life our generative power reverses. We then begin to die, just as we began to live 40 years ago. At that reversal point our visible bodies begin to manifest their invisible halves. They are still visible for another 30 or 40 years before they pass beyond our range of visibility at that point which we call death. Likewise they are still workable as mechanical bodies for many years after the power to pump our visible bodies into their dense forms weakens to universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 506. The point where we have to give back to Earth and space all that we have borrowed from it. I am often asked what happens if one is not allowed to live his life through, such as dying in childhood, or killed in war, if such a one is deprived of the advantages which those have who have completed their life cycles. Nature balances all of her divided cycles. If the visible body disappears at 20 years of age, it means only that the whole life cycle is shortened. The invisible half of the body shortens its rest period to balance the shortening of the work period. The youth who is killed reincarnates sooner than he otherwise would. Remember always that the time element in every cycle of every kind throughout all creation is equally divided between its supposed halves. The 2 reversal points are equal. Action and reaction of positive and negative halves of polarized bodies are equal. Your in-breathing period is equal to your out-breathing period. If a man generates his concentrated body toward life for 10, 20, 30 or 50 years to manifest God by work, he must decentrate the other half of his body for an equal period to manifest God through rest. That is law. The compression period of every cycle must be followed by an equal expansion period. There is no exception to this law, so that any shortening of any life cycle by destruction of one half of it is balanced in the other half. The following lessons will make this principle more clear to you as we proceed with further unfolding of the continuity of the opposite expressions of universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 507. Life, which we wrongly call life and death. These are not 2, they are 1. Amazingly new concepts. Both halves of our bodies eternally live. They never die. There is no death in the universe anywhere, nor in anything. God lives. God's universe is a living universe. Our bodies work for a while, then they relax, and rest, before working again. But relaxation is not death. The electric heartbeat of this living universe works for 1/2 of its pulse beat. It relaxes during the other half, but each expresses the continuity of life. Our bodies work at manifesting God during the positive half of their body cycle. They then relax, decentrate into the negative half of their bodies to renew their power to again manifest God through work. Our bodies are electric records of God's thinking. God's thinking is continuous, therefore the recording of God's thinking is continuous. God's thinking is concentrative and decentrative. Concentration and decentration are opposite halves of the same thing. They spring from each other. They merge into each other. They interchange to become each other. They continue each other through each other. There is no interval, no void, no cessation anywhere in the continuity of God's thinking. God's concentrative thinking manifests what we call life. God's decentrative thinking manifests what we call death. Life and death are opposite. Universal law, natural science and philosophy, page 508. Halves of the same thing. They spring from each other. They merge into each other. They interchange to become each other. They continue each other through each other. And so it is with each pair of opposites in all of God's divided universe. Night is a continuation of day, and dark continues light until dark again becomes visible light. Heat extends from cold, as cold contracts to born it. Cold then extends from heat as heat expands to born it. Each continues the other as each becomes the other. There is no gap, no void, to interrupt the absolute continuity of every effect of motion into its opposite effect. The cause of all effect is eternal. If there is any gap, or void, or discontinuity in effect, cause could not be eternal. Our present limited range of perception has born the idea of discontinuity in us. Our concept of death is one of the results of that gap in our range of perception. Facts of nature which escape us. The soul is the fulcrum from which the polarized lever of motion extends to manifest a polarized body. All bodies are electric, therefore all bodies are polarized. A polarized body means a body which is divided into two seemingly separate parts because of two opposite conditions which cause that seeming separateness. The whole universal body is polarized. It is divided into compressed light waves of matter which you can see, and into expanded ones which you cannot see. Universal law, natural science and philosophy, page 509-. A good example of a polarized body is a storage battery. One division is compressed. The other is expanded. They interchange to find balance in each other. Man's storage batteries can become depolarized, or dead. Nature's storage batteries cannot become depolarized. They cannot die. Nature's storage batteries are bodies. Every body in nature is a permanent live storage battery. Every body consists of dense matter surrounded by the tenuous matter of space, such as a sun, or planet. God is life. In him there is no death. Bodies manifest that which their creator is. They cannot manifest that which he is not. All bodies always manifest life. Bodies are as eternal as the ideas which they manifest are eternal. The reason that a man-made electric storage battery can become dead is because the electric current which caused the battery to pulse is withdrawn. When the charging force ceases to polarize, the battery depolarizes. God never withdraws the electric current of his motivating force from any of his creating bodies. Depolarization is impossible in God's ever-living storage batteries because the pulsing heartbeat of every body is eternally geared into the eternally living heartbeat of God's electric thinking. That still point of desire which motivates every body is eternally present in every body. It is the soul which centers every body in the universe from giant star to a speck of dust on a butterfly's wing. Let me recall God's words, in reference to this thought, as written in his message, the Divine Iliad. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 510. For behold, I am in all things, centering them, and I am without all things, controlling them. As these following lessons unfold, you will more and more comprehend the portentous meanings of those lines of his message, Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, S.C. D. Lesson number 31. The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Copyrighted 1951 by Walter and Lau Russell. The supreme mystery of the ages, reincarnation, continued to rebuild new concepts of nature's workings, is not easy for you, nor is it easy for me to explain it simply. For you it requires great concentration, followed by much decentration. For me it needs the power to make simple for you that which seems inconceivably complex to you. I assure you, however, that when you finally arrive at full knowing of the basic simplicity of God's creative principle, you will know it in all of the simplicity in which I know it. And it will transform you by its illumining as it transformed me. The simplest of all stories is the hardest to tell when one has to tell it to the senses in words. This marvelous story we are telling you cannot be told to the senses in words. It can be told only by inspired mind to re-inspired mind. It cannot be sensed. It must be known. The story is not in the lines of words, therefore, it is in the blank spaces between the lines. These you can read only after your senses have seen the words. Pause, therefore, often enough for your mind to read the blank. 511. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 512. E-A-E-M. Essay. C0 de E-A-E-E-E-E-E-E-E. O-O-O-E-E spaces between the words so that you will awaken the knowing which lies dormant within the still light of your consciousness, instead of only the vibrant motion of your senses which know nothing, but can remember and repeat everything. Let the noise of your vibrating senses die down once in a while and seek the silence from which that noise springs. In that way you can alone know the great mystery which is being unfolded for you here in these pages, step by step, by taking one idea at a time and telling you about it as simply as possible. We must talk about them simply, for from now on you will be confronted with new thoughts and ideas which are so entirely new, mad, strange to you that it will require a great effort for you to discard your old primitive concepts, which your senses have deceived you into forming, and replace them with new ones beyond the power of your senses to distort. It is not easy to step into another world which is utterly different from that which your senses have built up for you, but the reward for the effort will simplify your life and multiply your power to control it. Proceeding in this fashion, we will tell, step by step, how God seemingly divides his indivisible oneness into countless many seemingly separate individual ones. Also how God seemingly extends countless many changing, and differently conditioned visible bodies of complex forms, from the one formless, unchanging, unmeasurable and unconditioned source of the entire illusion which creation is. God creates only one form in the electrically divided universe. There is but one divided form of one universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 513-E. Divided body, and that one simple form is the cube sphere. The sphere is the visible compressed half of the one polarized body. The cube is the invisible other expanded half. This one body form is in the making and the unmaking everywhere in the universe. When the visible sphere is completed in its making into a true sphere, its invisible other half is then a true cube. Together the cube sphere is the basic one form of all bodies. Your own body is composed entirely of cube spheres, and so is the body of the violet, insect, elephant, automobile or ocean liner. The complexity of nature's countless thousands of forms disappears in the simplicity of the cube spheres, of which all forms of animal, vegetable and mineral life are composed. It may be difficult for you to think of your body in terms of cube spheres when you are so accustomed to thinking of your body as you see it in the mirror. In it you see a body with legs, arms, head, hands and feet. It is even difficult for you to think of your body as composed of atoms. If, however, you earnestly desire to know what happens to the pattern of your body structure, and of the countless thoughts which you have conceived during the only kind of life you know, and expressed in the only kind of body you know, you will give much thought to the cube sphere or wave field, which is the basic form of God's creation. All other forms are combinations of cube spheres, or they are cross-sections of them, such as you see in crystal forms of the elements which are on their way to becoming true cube. See Figure 69. Never forget that all bodies, human and otherwise, are composed of the elements of matter. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 514. In this knowledge of the interrelationship of the cube sphere lies the answer to thought transmission between living people and those whose bodies have passed beyond our range of sensing. This much hoped for possibility will come within the range of your comprehension, and possibly within your powers of practice, when you know that thought bodies are the basis of the material bodies with which you are familiar. The sphere is the result of the concentrative pulsation of God's thinking, which pulls inward from within to focus the light of God's thinking to a point of stillness, around which a thought body can be formed. This causes the universal effect, which we know as gravitation, and the still point of concentration is a center of gravity. Gravitation multiplies power. The cube is the result of the decentrative pulsation of God's thinking, which thrusts outward from within to the stillness of the cube boundaries to produce the opposite effect, which we know as radiation. Radiation divides power _ gravitation, and radiation are the opposite ends of the piston which motivates the heartbeat of this eternally living dual body of God, which is our dual body. Its continual giving and re-giving manifests the love principle in both the action and reaction, not just in one of them. Their continual interchange in spiral lanes of opposed directions gives us the incandescent light of hot spheres by the friction of resistance to the interpassings of both in such close quarters as the vortical centers of cube spheres. Conversely, the release of that resistance in the widening lanes of the outer spiral direction gives us the cold and dark of the cube half. The Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 515. Wave field which encloses every divided body in the universe. To exemplify this effect, see the oppositely directioned arrows, marked A and B in Figure 67 on page 492. No matter where you look out into nature, whether it be the bark, wood or leaf of a tree, or speck of dust on a butterfly's wing, the grass in the meadow or the deer eating the grass, or your own body of many forms and substances, From the hair on your head to the nails on the ends of your fingers and toes, all of them are composed of cube spheres which are either completed, or on their way to, or from, the balance point of their maturity at the amplitude reversal point of their octave waves. Of these octave waves you will hear much in later lessons. In other words, the dual body of the cube sphere is growing to its maturity to express life, just as your body is growing to its maturity to express life, as all bodies and all the universe are doing. After they have matured to the maximum of their generative power at their octave wave amplitudes, they begin to return to their spatial body from which they emerged, as your body likewise does. Remember, however, that Earth and space expressed death to give life to the compressed half of your body. You then give life back to the expanded half of your body by giving it your death. But why think of them as life and death? Why not think of them as the two expressions of life which are manifest in all things, action and rest from action? Learn to think of life and death that way, as an interchanging continuity, instead of as the beginning and end. Think that way concerning all bodies. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 516 and all actions of all bodies which perpetually give and are being rediven. Think of the manifestation of the love principle in all actions of all bodies. If you even throw a ball in the air to manifest life by charging space, you are also manifesting death by discharging Earth of exactly the measure of potential which Earth extended from it. Conversely, the ball ray gives life to Earth and death to space by the interchange of one body condition with the other. You do exactly the same thing when the inner half of your body breathes out to the outer half. You give life to the outer half of your body by extending death from the inner half. Realize always that all bodies in all creation are the electric recordings of God's concentrative decentrative thinking. Both pulsations of God's thinking are creative, not just one pulsation. Both are constructive. Both express life interchanging with life. There is no death, nor destruction, in either pulsation of God's continuous thinking. Diverging rays which leave the sun discharge the sun, but when those same rays converge toward Earth, they charge Earth with life. Negative discharge from any body becomes positive charge to every other body. Life flows continually. There is no death. We look out into the cube spheres of space. We can better visualize the cube sphere by looking up into the starry heavens. On a clear night you will see countless stars which are all true spheres or oblate ones which are not yet completed or which have been completed and are now being transformed into their opposite spatial counterparts. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 517. Around each star you will see tremendous expanses of dark space. You think of that empty space as formless. You cannot possibly see a cubic form surrounding every perfectly spherical star. Your senses will not permit you to see them, but your mind will permit you to know many things which your senses cannot possibly perceive. See Figure 70. We make a supreme discovery. It might help you to comprehend what is now coming by asking you if you have ever considered why it is that all of those millions of stars out in space do not crash into each other and wreck each other, accidentally or otherwise? The answer to the question is that all wave fields which bound and enclose each body pair in the universe, human and otherwise, are insulated from each other by invisible planes of zero curvature, such as the 6 flat planes which enclose a cube, beyond which light cannot pass without reversing its polarity. See Figure 71. Reversal of polarity is the insulator which keeps all wave fields in the universe in balance with each other, and ensures their centering suns from colliding with other suns, and adjusts the changing orbits of all centering bodies to balance always with each other's continually changing orbits. Let us now consider your own dual body in the same light. Your own body is composed of countless billions of little wave fields which bound each corpuscle of dense matter and its surrounding spatial counterpart. What is there to prevent these spheres and spheroids of your body from colliding with each other? The answer is the same for your microscopic wave fields as it is for the mightiest stars in the heavens. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 518 __. You as an individual unit of creation, like every star in the firmament as an individual unit of creation, center your own collective field which includes the millions of little ones within them, and those you take on as your desire increases in intensity. You, as an individual unit of creation, are a point of desire in the zero universe of mind. Around the centering point, which is your soul, you create a record of your desire, which is your dual body, in a wave field measured out for you in the stillness of the unchanging zero universe. The measure of your wave field is the measure of the intensity of your desire. The pattern of the body you create in it is an electric record of your desires. Your body is the record of the sum total of the desires you have expressed in the millions of years of your unfolding. You never lose that patterned record of your desire which is your body. You always have your body. Your senses lose awareness of it for a while, just as they do when you sleep, but your conscious soul never loses awareness of it. Desire in your consciousness recalls it, reassembles it part by part in the pattern of age-long desire, just as desire of soul which centers the seed of an oak reassembles the oak tree in its own pattern, leaf by leaf, its wood, its bark, its strength, its majesty of form. If you look into the seed of the oak you cannot find the oak, or any part of it. Even with the finest microscope you cannot see any indication of leaf or wood of the tree which will assemble itself around, and extend from that seed. Nothing material is in that seed. It belongs to the zero universe of mind desire. Centering it is the point of desire of mind to manifest the idea of universal law. Natural Science and Philosophy, page 519. The oak. Around that centering soul are invisible states of motion known to chemists as the inert gases. That is all. These invisible inert gases are in gyroscopic motion upon planes which are at a 90-degree angle from the planes of rotation of such visible elements as carbon or silicon. No, the body of the oak tree is not in its seed, but the idea of the oak is there. God is there, God, the Creator, who has desired to manifest that part of the whole idea of creation at that point of desire which centers the seed of the oak. Where, then, is the body of the oak? It is in the other half of its wave field, the invisible half within which the visible half rests from its concentrative action. When desire of mind reconcentrates upon its desire for a concentrated form of body, that concentrated form reappears by reversing its polarity from negative to positive. It centers the cube of its wave field. It becomes the fulcrum of the wave lever which pumps each patterned part of the oak from its outer invisible body to its inner visible one. Conversely, when desire of mind decentrates, every state of motion which constituted the visible body expands centrifugally into the invisibility of its cube by again reversing its polarity from positive to negative. Always remember that you have two opposed halves of your one body, just as you have two opposed swings to the pendulum of your thinking. One half of your body is for its work period, with short intervals for rest and body renewal, while the other half is for its long rest period, for complete renewal of the working half. Remember also that desire to reassemble your visible body by reversing universal law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 520-0- Your own body polarity is centered in you, as it is in the oak and all other forms of idea. When these processes of God's creative secrets are yours to know, you will more fully understand his meaning of the words written in the message of the Divine Iliad, which read, "For behold, I am within all things, centering them, and I am without all things, controlling them." Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 521, figure 69. All forms of all bodies are based upon the cube sphere. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 522, figure 70. God creates only one form and one material body, the cube sphere. All forms and bodies are cube spheres in the making or Gong-Yuan making. Cube spheres are completed at all wave amplitudes. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 523, figure 71. Every body in TJ universe interchanges with every other body by two-way reversal of polarity at centers of gravity and again at planes of zero curvature which bound wave fields. Each then becomes the other and fulfills the office of the other. The positive charge of gravitation reverses polarity at centers of gravity. It then becomes negative discharge which radiates toward the negative half of its dual body. In this electric wave universe, like conditions seek like conditions. The general belief that opposites attract and likes repel has no precedent in natural law. Every anode is also a cathode and every cathode is an anode. Every charging body is also discharging and every discharging body is also charging. In this manner life gives to death that death may die and death gives to life that life may live. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy by Walter Russell, S.C. D. Lesson number 32. The Walter Russell Foundation, Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Copyrighted 1951 by Walter and Lau Russell. Answers to students' questions. At long last we are now enabled to answer the heretofore unanswerable questions concerning life, death, and what happens after, both as to body and person. Many such questions have been in our files for a long time, not because they could not be answered, but because the answers could not be understood. New concepts had to be built to replace primate ones. The reality and certainty of death was not only the dread terror but the unnatural thought that death is God's will, and our resignation to the accepted fact that God giveth, and he taketh away places the status of human unfolding at a very low level of the long upward journey to man's mountaintop. In God's commands to me, as written in the book of instructions not yet published, he says, "Take thou man's death away from him, and give him back to me as me." From the Divine Iliad. That does not mean that the principle which we call death is to be removed from natural law, nor does it mean that death can be conquered. 525 Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 52.6 in the sense that man can increase his lifespan indefinitely. To take death away from man means that greater knowledge will bring him the realization that there is no death. And so it is that the preparation given in the previous lessons will now enable us to answer questions upon that subject which would not have otherwise been understood. We open our long-closed files now and answer some of them. Question: if reincarnation is a process of nature, and I come back many times, why do I not remember who I was at other times and in other bodies? Answer. You remember all of the essentials of all lives you have ever lived, but you do not remember the non-essentials. You remember, for example, how you built your body during the millions of years of desire expressed by you to have a body. As you rebuild your new body, you assemble it into the stage of completion it was in when you last used it. During that period of your assembling, you pass through all of its former stages of your unfolding, from your beginnings as a spore, or bit of protoplasm, up through the various epochal stages, until you have arrived at what your body now is. It took millions of years of desire to do what you now do in 9 months. It may have taken 100,000 years of desire for fingernails to produce what you now produce in your gestation period. You remember everything you have ever added to your body and the purposefulness of every part of it. Every cell of your body remembers its own particular purpose. White Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 527. Corpuscles will rush to repair damage to your body with the same certainty that a bell will ring when you press a button. Why is this? It is because you remember each little addition to your body as you built it. Your soul remembers the desire and your body remembers its fulfillment. You may wonder how your body remembers its fulfillment. God's recording system does that for your body. As each cell of your body unfolds from its seed, the record of that unfoldment refolds back into its seed. In later lessons this principle will be disclosed. So much for the body. Regarding memories of physical or spiritual experiences, consider the things you do now which you would not do 100,000 years ago. At such early periods you would kill instinctively at an early age, just as a young lion would kill. It is then your nature to kill without compunction. Gradually you find it not good to kill. Your very nature changes. At each birth you remember that you are not killing. You are no longer that kind of a creature. More and more your nature changes at each rebirth. For the experiences of killing and cruelty cease to be recorded in the refolding soul seed of you. There are other memories of past experiences such as the following. 1. When the newborn babe's cheek touches its mother's breast, it immediately seeks that place upon it where it suckles. You will note that a child immediately recognizes the difference between the flesh of the breast and the nipple, as all animals also do. Memory is the answer to that cell memory of body experiences repeated so many millions of times that such actions become automatic. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 522-10_-AEM-2. If you put your fingers in a child's hands, the child will hang so tightly to them that you could almost pull it up. Automatic reflexes and cell memory of many experiences explains that. There are countless other such evidences of memories of past lives which have to do with the nature of unfolding man. Why is it that you wonder why you cannot remember the name and address which identified you in other lives? It is as though the violet could not remember its name, or what meadow it bloomed in 10 years ago. Question. It has often been suggested that a mother who dearly loved her son could come right back and be born as his own child. Is that possible? Answer _no, it is not possible to come right back. Every cycle must be completed. The mother's cycle is not completed by the passing of her visible body. She must complete her cycle in her invisible body. If the visible have consumed 50 years, it would take an equal period of time before a reversal of polarity could again bring the inner body into reappearance. In the next series of lessons this will be more explicitly explained by that as yet unknown phenomenon of nature which compels every polarized body to turn inside out and outside and forever. We will defer the rest of this answer until then. Question. Do you know of any cases where loved ones of a family have reincarnated in the same family? Answer. I know of many which are possible or even probable. We are particularly interested in any evidence which runs within the possibilities, universal law, natural science and philosophy page 529 although no cases can ever be proven no matter what the evidence. Here is one very possible case. Uncle Hubert died in his youth, had red hair, was left-handed, had Roman nose and a protruding back head and distinct cowlick on his unusually high forehead. He was passionately fond of music, knew all of the best classic music and improvised by the hour. Many years later a red-haired, left-handed child was born to his niece who so closely resembled Uncle Hubert that the older relatives who knew him well were astonished by the great similarity. Such physical features are explainable, however, in families, but not the mental ones. This child gave evidence of great musical talent at 3. He knew all of the operas and astonished his parents and friends by marking time with a baton from start to finish as an expert orchestra leader would do. Genius is not passed down in families. Children inherit bodies but not soul or mind. It is very rare that the children of a genius become aware of genius in them. In fact, I know many sons and daughters of great men who have felt the frustrations of inferiority complexes because of not being able to measure up to their father's mental standard. Question. Will we ever be able to actually communicate with those who have passed on? Answer. You have raised a rather large question which is not capable of an adequate answer until more of our old primitive concepts have been replaced with new ones which are in accord with natural law. Much can be said, however, which is within present-day comprehension. The application of just ordinary common sense to the thoughts which one shall universal law, natural science and philosophy page 51c1 !Rogiview will help you to see that the very framing of your question has in it a lack of common sense. Consider these thoughts. Forget for a moment the idea of communicating with those who have passed on and ask yourself how you communicate with those who have not passed on. You can communicate with another person in only 2 ways. Through your senses, which requires an action which extends your body to another body by means of spoken or written words, letters or other physical means of communication. Through your mind, which requires thought transference without the physical action of transforming thought bodies to material bodies. Telepathy, intuition and such qualities of the mind are now rapidly unfolding to extend sensory perception to advanced humans. Now ask yourself this question. Since you have only 2 ways of communicating with other humans, would it even occur to you to use the spoken written word method if you wished to communicate with your father while he is asleep? No, of course you would not. You know that there is not a sufficient voltage of electric current in him to vibrate his senses that way unless you awaken his body. If you did awaken his body, you could then extend your body to his, because both would be in the same electrical condition. If your father had passed on, you know you could not awaken him. He is not only in a longer sleep but his polarity has been reversed. You cannot universal law, natural science and philosophy page 531. Deom. Teeeeeeeopeee et de la CEO possibly intercommunicate with him by any extension of your electric body to his, for he could not hear sounds, nor read words. His mind is not asleep, however, nor is yours. His mind still desires and always will. That desire of his soul to manifest his God self through a body will eventually bring his body back to manifest his self. Now consider this thought. Mind desires and mind thinks the thoughts which stem from desire. If you should sit with your father while he is asleep and extend some desire of your consciousness to his consciousness, he would become aware of your thought extension to a more or less extent, depending upon the advancement of his own unfolding. This fact is so well recognized that it has a name: thought transference. You can easily demonstrate that yourself. Sit in the room of a sleeping person whom you are close to, such as your wife. If you are exuberantly happy, thinking beauty in rhythmic music and such harmonious thoughts, you can make her sleep happily, and insulate her from inharmonious dreams, and she will awaken that way. It cannot be otherwise, for this is a thought wave universe, and her consciousness will respond to the rhythm and essence of your thought, which is happiness and balance, even if she did not awaken with the patterned idea which you may have given to the thought. Conversely, if you have deep worries and fears, or disturbing thoughts which are frustrations of your desires, or if something is menacing you, you will soon see your wife turn in her sleep. If she is closely in rapport with you, then, when she awakens, she will give full evidence of having consciously reflected the essence of your worried attitude of mind. More than likely she. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 532 will say, with much concern, "What is the matter, John? What is wrong?" This brings you to another thought for consideration. If you would not speak to your living father or wife who are sleeping, because you know they could not answer you while in so depolarized a body condition, why should you expect to speak in words to your father, who is not only in his long sleep but who has so reversed his polarity that his invisible body could not hear you, but also could not speak to you? Ordinary common sense, and the knowledge you already have, will point out the absurdity of spiritualistic claims that someone's mother is in the room and wishes to speak to her daughter through the medium who makes these absurd claims. Omit, therefore, all means of bodily, or person-to-person intercommunications by means of the senses, and confine such possibilities to mind and thought of mind intercommunications. Omit also all thought of mind intercommunications from which you may hope for answers which have to do with things which concern only the senses. By this I mean such absurdities as asking one's mother if she is happy, or comfortable where she is, or where she hid her jewel box. Remember always that this is a thought wave universe, that thought bodies are living bodies, and that thought bodies are not bound to time. Thought bodies are eternal in time. Once formed, they extend to the farthest reaches of time. Beethoven's thoughts are your thoughts, and they are posterity's. They extend through you. Beethoven is a part of your identity, your individuality, your culture, your charm. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 533. 1.14 Me Grassi. Countless thousands of the thoughts of people who have passed on have been extended to future generations through you. It is not necessary for me to think of some particular thought of Beethoven's or of any other person who has extended his thoughts to me, for I can just think of that soul which is Beethoven, or Leonardo da Vinci, or Walt Whitman, and their very knowing extends to me. Even though they may have been reincarnated since they lived, their knowing and the thought bodies of their knowing, extend to me at will. I can say much more to you on this subject when we have further prepared you for comprehending it, but this I will say now, that mankind, as a whole, has but hardly arrived at the verge of his new day of greater conscious awareness. Great transformations lie ahead for many who have passed beyond the verge. Mankind, 3,000 years from now, will have mind qualities undreamed of by this primate age, and many there are right now who are ready to step into high places undreamed of by a man of 100 years ago. Question: does cremation have any disastrous effect upon reincarnating bodies? Answer: not the slightest. The body which is discarded does not return. It is replaced, just as your body has always been replaced from day to day. You have not one particle of the same body you were born with. You are constantly discarding it and replacing it with similar states of motion. If you were not constantly discarding your body, it might weigh 100 tons in a lifetime. Universal Law, Natural Science and Philosophy, page 534_A-. Cremation of your whole body would have no more effect upon future bodies assembled by desire anew, than the burning of an amputated arm would have. Reincarnation does not mean the rebirth of the same body, it means the assembling of the same states of motion which constitute the pattern of that body. Swannanoa, Waynesboro, Virginia. Beloved friends and students, your precious letters letting us know of your more abundant lives, through the knowledge you are gaining by your studies, are to us the greatest demonstration we receive of God's wondrous law of giving for re-giving. When such letters arrive, and they arrive every day, they never fail to inspire us in our giving to you by making God's message for ever more clear, so that you may in turn know inner security. When man knows inner security, he has the key to peace and happiness, whatever material conditions are manifesting in home or world conditions. In these 4 lessons, the question that has haunted mankind since his beginnings has started being revealed to you, and will be continued until this great mystery has been clarified for you. Take each sentence slowly, for by so doing you will understand, and then it will become so simple for you to comprehend you will wonder why it ever puzzled you at all. Take each thought in it into your meditation until it becomes a part of your own thinking. Do not try to explain it to anyone else until you yourself know, for when you are questioned about something you yourself are not clear about, you become confused in your apartment to feel that you will never understand this new knowledge. In our next unit of lessons we shall continue to unfold the heretofore unknown secrets of the soul and seeds of body forms which come into visibility and out of it in such mysterious ways. These unknown secrets have heretofore been unknown because they belong to the invisible universe which has not yet been penetrated by man. So much of what is come is unknown that it must be given a little out of 535 time, and much time spent in meditation between readings to assimilate it. The matter of meditation cannot be emphasized often enough, for meditation has been so misunderstood in the past as meaning to concentrate instead of decentrate. You will remember that it was Dr. Russell who first gave the world the word decentration, thus bringing a new understanding of how to meditate. One day his new word decentration will become universally known and included in the dictionaries of the world. In order to make it perfectly clear to you that your share in the creation of this universal body is under your absolute control when you know yourself as co-creator with God, and that the patterned form of the idea which you are manifesting is as eternal as the idea of you is eternal, you must know God's ways of working. Our Father, Mother Creator has not withheld His secrets from us. They have always been wide open for us to see and to know. If we at long last desire to open wide the doors to the light of our inner vision, we can, at long last, replace the weakness of our ignorance with the omnipotent power of new knowledge which those secrets will reveal. My husband has much to tell and many mysteries to disclose. There are the unsuspected mirrors and lenses of nature which reflect, repolarize, dissolve and again resolve, forming bodies. There is the supreme mystery of curvature in our visible, radial universe, which emerges from a zero universe of zero curvature. There is the mystery of simultaneously unfolding from the seed and refolding into the seed, and the mystery of the seed itself. Likewise, there is the secret of God's bookkeeping and recording system of electric waves, which have 9 pages in every wave for his recordings, by means of which not 536 one thought of yours or mine is missed, or forgotten. Likewise, there is the as yet unknown periodicity of magnetic poles in their slow journeys toward, and away from poles of rotation. This periodicity of magnetic poles controls the making and unmaking of cube spheres and gives you the secret of your own vitality and self-healing. Also there is the gyroscopic principle, the voidance principle and the secret of crystal forms. All of these have a part in the knowledge of what happens to me when I die. So the next several lessons will be devoted to a continuation of this long-hidden secret of reincarnation and the continuity of life. Again I would say to you, beloved friends and students who are surely God's New Age messengers, devote every moment possible to making this new knowledge or OWN, for man has reached the stage in his unfolding when he will be compelled to make the transition from his past ages of sensing and repeating and go forward into the glorious cosmic age of knowing and creating. Your place in this new age will unfold as you become ready. My husband was instructed by God as to when he should release this new knowledge, and God brought me to him to fulfill my destiny by helping him find ways and words to bring the great knowledge he was born to give in simple words for your understanding. Every moment of our lives is given to our work, and your joy is our joy, for without this work our lives would lose their purpose for being. And so from the depths of my being I say thank you and God bless you for sharing in God's great message for this coming age. Always, beloved friends, devotedly your 537 Lau Russell. Corrections in Unit 9. Pate Nate sits with J 649, VT 204 Noyos, CP, Scissor 0/R. 2 page 551st 8th line. Well 4, spelling, page 553rd 18th line. After relations, cross out last 6 words. Page 556th 16th line. Miscegenation, spelling, page 562nd 7th line. Man, not he, gave to man wage 1,244 energyfront. 441 equals 11 6.4 Sigpli. Page 588 12th line. Cross out a but, to read the has the right to choose. Page 598 4th line. From bottom out, not our. Page 601st 15th line. Insert tint at end of line. Page go section a dot 6, th line. Off man, not for fan / a. Page 61521 tth line. Weaker, not weak 8%. So 0714th line. Cross out that _ ta _ read equals exclamation mark. The more the industrial machine. Page 6 la zrd _ lj acid pam / through me -1. 47, question mark Corlith. Page -- t program. Page 624th 8th line. Intelligentsia, spelling, equals 00.